In this video, we're going to show you how to combine an enum with a switch statement. As you can see, we've already written quite a bit of the code required to accomplish this demonstration. We have an enum up here, which just includes every month of the year, January through December. And we have a switch statement, which checks each potential enum and outputs a string depending on which enum we have. We also have this brief initialization statement where we create a variable called month, and we assign the enum value September to that variable. And then that variable gets checked against the cases in our switch statement. So depending on which enum value is assigned to the month, it will determine which string gets output. So of course, since we have September up here, we're going to output this month is September because it matches this particular case. Now there are two things that you may have noticed. The first thing is that each of these cases, it doesn't say just January, February, March, April, May, etc. Every one of these is preceded by a period. If I delete the period, we're going to get an error message. Just wait a second for the error message, and yep, there we go. Unresolved identifier, January, case, blah, blah, blah. You get the idea. Whenever you're referencing a case from an enum like so, you always need to begin it with a period. I'm not entirely sure why that's the way it is, but it is. So just remember, whenever you want to check for an enum value, like January or February or March or whatever values are inside your enum, make sure that you always precede it with a period. You may have also noticed that there's no default statement in the switch. So there's no default statement right here. The reason for that is switches and enums are really built well to work together. The way a switch statement works is it looks at the variable that it's being asked to search for, or search the cases for matching purposes. And if that variable is an enum, then it's going to look to make sure that the cases that it has are fully exhaustive of all the potential enum values you have. So in this particular example, we have 12 options represented by the 12 months. And down here, we have 12 options represented by the 12 months. If we get rid of one of them, like if I just delete December, we're going to get an error message. And it says, missing case December. And yeah, that just indicates that we are missing one of these cases. All of the cases in your enum must reflect in the switch statement. If you're missing even one case, then you're going to get some kind of an error message. But as a result, you do not need to include a default statement. So just be aware of those two things. So a quick overview of how this works. Like we should have seen in the previous video, we have our enum, and we create an instance of the enum. The enum instance is called month, and it's assigned the value of September. That is from the month enum, represented by this right here. That value gets put into the month variable. In fact, let's rename this just to make it a bit more obvious that this is different. Let's just call this M and this M. So the month of September gets placed into the variable M, which gets carried over into this M, which is part of the switch statement. I'm going to add a space there just to make it look a little bit nicer. And so the September enum value is going to be checked against every single one of these cases. And as soon as we get to the correct case, which is here on line 18, this particular option ends up being selected. And as you can see over here, the month is September has been written out in the sidebar. And we can always just do a print instead if we prefer to do that. It's really, it's your preference. It's how you want the application to run. And so you can see it down here in the console as soon as the playground finishes compiling, like so. So now what I want to show you how to do is how to pass an enum instance like this one, how to pass that into a function. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a function and put the switch statement inside that function. So I'm going to call our function, actually no, let's say show month. We'll go ahead and create our closing bracket and everything inside, I'm going to indent or tab everything in just to make it look nice and pretty. And then we're going to specify exactly what we're going to accept as a parameter, passing it into our function. Well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just change that a little bit. I'm just making names a little bit different so it's easier for you to kind of like see exactly what's going on. So we'll go ahead and mnth, that's going to be the name of the variable that we put into the switch statement and perform a bunch of case checks on. And we're going to make this variable be of the data type month, because if you remember, enums are their own data type that you can create and customize to your own preferences. So month data type will go right there. So this right here, this indicates, or this alludes to this particular data type up here, which means that the value or the variable that gets passed into our function must be a data type from the month enum. It must be a value from the month enum. Let's go ahead and create our function call now. We have show month, and we're going to pass in our month instance. So our month instance, which we created up here originally, is the letter m, or is the variable m. So we'll pass m into the function. So we assign the enum to the variable. We put the variable into the function, and that gets assigned to the variable mnth, which is in the function. That gets passed into the switch statement, and then based on what the switch statement says, it will determine which case it needs to be put under. In this case, it is September, and that is basically it. Let's go another step and add a return type. We'll do a string, and I'm going to, instead of just having this text like so, I'm going to actually return a value. So I'm going to pause the video, and when I'm done, I'll have all the return statements added to these 12 lines. Okay, we're back, and as you can see, they have been added. And just a heads up, you don't need to keep these on the same line if you don't want to. You can put them onto the next line if you prefer to do it that way. This is completely personal preference. I'm going to keep them on the same line just because I think it's easier for myself, but you don't have to do it that way. But anyhow, this right here, this is how you are able to pass an enum into a method or into a function, and then check the value of the enum based on what you passed into the function. So this is all I wanted to cover in this video. Hopefully it's been useful, and hopefully you understand A, this is how you have to refer to an enum. When you're matching it, you must begin with a period, and B, understand how to create a parameter for an enum value, and then also make sure to understand how to create a bunch of case statements. Make sure that when you do use a switch statement to compare for an enum, that you include all the possible enum values. In this case, it's January through December, so all 12 months are included in our switch statement as potential cases. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.